In a small chapel in central France, you'll find this enigmatic fresco. It's a scene from the Bible depicting Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Behind them is the Tree of Knowledge, except that it doesn't look like a tree. Instead, it looks like a giant mushroom. Why? Could artworks like this reveal hidden truths about Christianity and psychedelics? Or is there another explanation, one that's more rooted in the weird world of medieval illustration? Welcome to Strange Christian Art. This episode, Psychedelics. For many years now, people have noticed mushrooms throughout religious art, often in scenes from the Bible. Like this one, it's from the Great Canterbury Psalter, with a portrait of Jesus during the creation of Earth. Below him are these bright multicoloured plants that look an awful lot like fungi. In fact, across medieval artworks, you'll seem to find these mushrooms everywhere, from painted wood panels featuring branching toadstools to cathedral-stained glass with, well, whatever this is. But the real centerpiece is the Plaincourault fresco, that 12th century wall painting of the Garden of Eden. It's a bizarre image. The Tree of Knowledge looks like a giant mushroom, from its rounded cap to fruiting bodies growing off the stalk. Some have remarked that it shares a strong resemblance to an Amanita muscaria, a fungus that produces this bright red toadstool. Comparing the two side by side, they do indeed look very similar, even down to the red colouring and white spots. But what do these mushrooms have to do with the biblical story of Adam and Eve? Well, it might have something to do with this mushroom having psychoactive properties. Amanita muscaria contains a chemical called muscimol. When metabolized, it can create feelings of euphoria and out-of-body experiences. But before you get any ideas, the mushroom is also highly toxic. If handled incorrectly, it can make you very ill. Symptoms include nausea, tremors, and fits of muscle spasm. Deaths are rare, but they do happen. Some believe that the tree in the book of Genesis was actually an Amanita muscaria. After all, in the biblical story, its fruit grants humans knowledge of good and evil, just as psychedelics are described as inspiring spiritual awakening. This explanation was made popular by a book called The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. Its author, John Marco Allegro, suggested that this fresco was a hidden reference to a long-lost tradition of psychedelic usage. He argues that these mushrooms were consumed in ancient Christianity, and memory of it has been preserved in images like these. It's an interesting theory, except that it has been unanimously rejected by scholars. And for good reason. It's not the controversial conclusions he makes, but the big leaps in logic he takes to get there. On the basis of images like this, Allegro claims to have proven the use of psychedelics in early Christianity. These medieval illustrations were made more than 1,000 years after the Bible was codified. They're from very different eras in time. I can't get into all the counter-arguments, including the fact that Amanita muscaria does not grow in the Middle East. But what I can ask is this: are we sure that these are really mushrooms? And that's the thing, they're not. They're trees. Very weird trees for sure, but trees nonetheless. Let me explain. In the European Middle Ages, where these images come from, art was a little more loose. Religious illustrations were heavily stylized, meaning that drawing things realistically wasn't as important. Case in point, bestiaries, early books that catalogue different kinds of plant and animals. The creatures inside look very strange, from multicoloured pigs to elephants carrying castles on their backs. Oh, and these projectile-propelling cows called bonacons. Looking at these bestiaries gives us a glimpse at the fantastical ways medieval artists looked at the natural world. And this is where those mushrooms come in. In reality, these are drawings of trees, rendered with strange forms and bright colours. Under closer inspection, there are certain giveaways to this, like the presence of leaves. Returning to the Plaincourault fresco, the Tree of Knowledge really is a tree. Instead of stalks, these are branches, and the dots are meant to resemble leaves. I know it looks strange, but if you zoom in on the snake, you can see an apple in its mouth. This giant mushroom is most likely an apple tree. Given how weird some medieval plants are drawn, it makes sense how some authors like Allegro saw magic mushrooms instead of trees. The unique shapes and colours make them very hard to identify. One person's tree is another person's mushroom. It's a bit like this optical illusion. What do you see, a rabbit or a duck? What if I rotate it a little? Still the same? How we interpret these pictures gave me an idea to make some religious art of my own. Using an AI, I created these images. Is it a tree or is it a mushroom? Some of these blurry sketches have people in them. Who do you see in these paintings? Could this be Jesus? Could this be the Virgin Mary? My favourite image the AI came up with is this, a holy mushroom person. Saint Fungus, I'll call him. Admittedly, I had a bit too much fun making these. My very own gallery of strange Christian art. When a piece of art is vague and confusing, we use our interpretation to fill in the gap. Tree, mushroom. Mushroom, tree. But when there's interpretation, there's also imagination. From these images, some are able to construct intricate theories involving Christianity and psychedelics. It's not a bad question by any means, but it's important to view these pictures within their historical context. Okay, so there might not be psychoactive mushrooms hidden in Christian art, but I still think it's an interesting question. After all, religious art is full of strange visions, trippy visuals, and frightening entities. Are there other examples of psychedelic Christian art? I want to introduce you to Hildegard von Bingen, a German abbess from the 12th century. From a young age, she had miraculous visions of the divine. Believed to have come from God, she would describe them in vivid detail. In some, she is transported to a heavenly realm where she witnesses choirs of angels, all in this intricate fractal design. Near the centre, you can see multi-eyed angels known as seraphim. Look for too long, and it's easy to get lost in the weaving patterns. She also wrote music based on these visions. The song you're listening to right now was actually written by Hildegard herself. These artworks are depictions of her accounts by other artists. They're quite possibly the strangest medieval artworks I've come across. From divine cities in the sky to incomprehensible beings that take the appearance of angels. Others are abstract geometric shapes, rings, circlets, and sacred diagrams. No one knows what Hildegard really saw, or how she achieved her visions, but here's how she described it. And I spoke and wrote these things not by the invention of my heart, or that of any other person, but as by the secret mysteries of God, I heard and received them in the heavenly places. Some, of course, have suggested the use of psychoactive substances. It's possible the art does look pretty psychedelic, but it's often believed that these bizarre images are allegories, religious teachings wrapped up in symbols. Each picture doesn't make sense on its own, and an accompanying piece of text is needed to explain them. The true origins of Hildegard's elaborate visions, however, remain a mystery. In recent years, there's been renewed interest in the presence of psychoactive substances in religious art. There's something enticing about the idea of something sacred coming from the profane. To my mind, these questions reveal less about psychedelics and more about medieval art. From trees that look like mushrooms to grand allegorical visions, religious art is strange, not bound to the same rules of realism that we are accustomed to. Just as a psychedelic opens up new avenues of the mind, these unique artworks inspire us to explore avenues of the past and ask exciting questions of it. But if we're looking for the presence of psychedelics in Christianity, the best place to look is at the Bible. After all, it's full of trippy apocalyptic visions. This is something I'm going to investigate. In the meantime, are you familiar with the disturbing paintings of Hieronymus Bosch, whose elaborate hellscapes have left people confused and bewildered? Many believe the artist suffered from frightening hallucinations of his own, perhaps from eating ergots, a fungus that forms the basis of LSD. But to learn more about that, you'll have to watch my video. Hey, thanks for watching. I had a great time making this, and I hope you enjoyed it too. This is certainly a topic I plan to return to. If you like this video and want to see more, why not subscribe? A like and a comment also go a really long way. Oh, and do check out the channel's merch over at Crowdmade. We have beanies, t-shirts, and hoodies. Links are in the description down below. I look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.